public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Report's Reality Check. I'm the pollster, the head pollster, Mark Mitchell, and tonight we're talking about my favorite topic. Why is it my favorite topic? Because check this out. Check this out. Look at all of these names. Rasmussen Reports, we're there, but how about The Economist? How about Reuters Ipsos, Harvard Harris, Emerson, Quinnipiac, all of the names that you hear when you hear about election polling. But what sets us apart from every single name on this chart, yet even I think Atlas, Intel, and Trafalgar, what sets us apart? It's that we polled heavily to the detriment of our own business on the topic of election integrity. And that's what we're talking about tonight, because a lot is happening behind the scenes. Now, I know it's really tough to keep up. It's really tough. We're seeing literally the stuff play out today with the Ukraine war and Zelensky. We're seeing the Epstein client list. We're seeing Trump go to war with the deep state. It's really incredible. I'm going to run through a couple of quick things, but then we're going to talk about all of the election integrity polling from earlier this year, and a really important topic because things are coming to a head, at least as far as one particular angle with respect to election integrity goes. But just a few things that I thought were, like, we couldn't not talk about them. This post where Elon is on Joe Rogan, the media is incredibly partisan. Almost all the media is left shifted. It's kind of weird. If you talk to someone who gets all of their information from what I call the legacy media, they're living in an entirely different world. This is what's happened. The kleptocratic gaslighting operation to maintain the grift and stay in power. It went too far. They gaslit too many people. They created two alternate realities in the United States. It's really incredible, and it's going to revert. It's happening now. Then there was the most crazy news conference I've ever seen in my entire life, summed up nicely by comic Dave Smith. Imagine being completely dependent on Donald Trump to the point that your life was quite possibly on the line. And then imagine your move was to try to alpha him on national television in a language that you kind of speak. It was absolutely crazy. I don't know where we go, because Zelensky's not going to apologize. He's not coming back. And everybody in Europe is supporting this guy, piling in behind him. I really don't know if they're going to just try and gin up their own NATO war against Russia and hope to guilt trip us into it at some point. But I kind of think Europe already used up its get out of an invasion free card. I really don't know what their plan is going to be. Then you got this. This is from the Harvard Harris polling, I think, based on the graphics, but public opinion. Voters are getting what they want. And right now, what they want is to negotiate a settlement, 72%. Only 28% want to win this war. And I'll tell you what, that number is lower than any of the times we've asked the question. We've asked, should Zelensky negotiate peace, or should they continue fighting until they regain all the territory, in a higher number than this? So it's going south rapidly for Ukraine as far as public opinion's concerned. And then you got the Epstein client list. This is crazy. Now, I would say a day ago, everybody was freaking out about what happened. And I said, hold on, it's just a little fumble. It's just a little unforced error. Saying to everybody that we're going to fulfill a transparency oath by releasing the Epstein client list and all the documents. Turns out it's stuff, only 200 pages of stuff that's already been released before. And then to do it with the horrible optics of having the MAGA influencers down there that were under embargo and couldn't, it was ugly, but I kind of forgot it happened. It was just a day ago. And so ostensibly the FBI, the Southern District of New York, also are literally resisting the release of these documents. And it's, Cash has got to get his people on board with the Trump administration. But we saw this coming, people resisting Donald Trump from within the government, because the ideology, the ideologues, they were allowed to fester. They grifted too close to the sun. But here's where we're at today. It's looking still pretty good for Donald Trump's approval rating. Sorry, James Carville, it's not plunging. It's lower than it was, but he finished out the week at 50%. So that's crazy. Again, presidents get a honeymoon, but Donald Trump's honeymoon doesn't appear to be over. This is well higher than where he was at most of the time for the last 2 years of his previous term. So he's doing better. And we've talked about they're not going to be high. He's not going to be a very highly approved of president, but it'll be about 4 or 5 points higher than Biden was. And right track is still elevated, but not the insane 48 number that we saw on Monday. 45% right track, 50% wrong track, wrong direction. Sounds kind of low. But this still would probably put it higher than 97 or 8% of all of our polling ever, going back 19 years. 81% GOP approval, going up a little bit, offsetting a couple of points of independent approval. Trump's underwater a little bit. Might be the chaos, might be noise. I don't know. And black approval is down under 40. It wasn't there previously. But let's just check in on Real Clear Politics. But according to them, right direction is only 43%. Wrong track is 50, but it's really being dragged down by this Marquette poll, 24% underwater. That's not real. I don't know what the heck they were doing. If you go and look at Marquette from earlier in the election cycle, they had Harris up 3 and then Harris up 6. So they're one of the lefties. You could probably ignore that. But, the Reuters Ipsos one, they're going to be out in left field too. They were like 8 or 9 points of me back in the fall. And then everybody else, like whatever. Harvard Harris has it down 6, but they have Trump net +9 approval rating. And Emerson is a good poll. They're actually usually a point or 2 left to us. They have right direction, wrong track, 4 points positive, but also that was from a few weeks ago. So Trump's doing well. There's no plunge. Sorry, James Carville. But here is the polling. And I just went back and pulled a couple of polls just from the last year or two. There's so many of them. We asked election integrity question sets, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 times and all kinds of different questions. We try to get really creative. Here's one of our more creative ones. Stop me if you've seen this one before, but according to U.S. likely voters, 66% in 2023, 66% are concerned that the outcome of the 2024 presidential election will be affected by cheating. 40% very concerned. That's like third world levels of electoral confidence. It's absolutely horrifying. And even a strong majority, 55% of Democrats were concerned. 54% of Republicans were very concerned. 64% of independents concerned. And then this beauty. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? There is no way that Joe Biden got 81 million votes in the 2020 election. Sorry, not allowed to swear in the polls. But 49%, half of the country agreed with that, 33% strongly. How's that for the big lie? Not only are people super concerned about cheating in upcoming elections, like half the country agrees with the statement that song made so famous. And then there's voters out of their own mouths telling us they cheated. 1 in 5 mail-in voters admitted that they cheated in the 2020 election. That's crazy. That's crazy. And what this was is we asked a whole bunch of different ways, like, did you fill out a ballot for somebody else? Did you fill one for another state that you don't domiciled in? And if you add it all up, that's really crazy. Huge number. I think it was actually 28% committed at least one form of fraud. That's a lot of votes. It's a lot of votes. Then we got 62% are concerned about election and cheating. So that 66% wasn't an outlier. Even this year going into the election, the numbers were incredibly elevated, going to the crosstabs. This was a really big election set and hit a lot of really interesting things. We won't get digging too deep here, but one of the standout things was that in this poll, I think it was almost 9% of the U.S. likely voters who say they're going to vote in the election answered the question, no, or not sure, to are you a U.S. citizen? That's weird. That's not how it's supposed to be. We can't get into that tonight. I have another video covering it. Pretty insane. We actually went to a senator's office with that one, and voters want cheating election officials punished. From October, a week before the election, are there election workers and officials who have enabled fraud in elections? 49% of U.S. likely voters say yes. Only 27% say no. only barely more than a quarter can confidently tell you that there are not election workers who have enabled fraud in elections. Third world. Now, 24% are not sure, but I mean, that no number is really horrifying. It's only 38% of Democrats who say no. 62% of Republicans and 47% of independents say yes. Let's just see what the Biden approval numbers are. They're always interesting. This was asked back in October, so Biden was still president. 70% of Biden's strong disapprovers said yes, but 51%, a majority of Biden's strong approvers, said no. The biggest signal anywhere in the crosstabs, really weird. It's always the biggest signal. Trump versus Biden. It's not party line anymore. That's where people draw the line. How likely is it that officials who have enabled election cheating will be held criminally accountable? Only 48% say likely. Only 26% say very likely. That's really sad. And then we even asked this, what should the punishment be for election officials found guilty of cheating? Like, listen, we were really trying to do some R&D here. I think nobody ever asked a question like this. And 22% said prohibit them from holding public office in the future. 9% said fines. 19% said prison sentences. And 43% said all three. So that's 62% who say prison sentences are all three. So over 6 in 10 Americans say that people should be in prison if election officials are found guilty of cheating in elections, and then another 2% say the death penalty. Interesting. So, yeah, make of what you will with that. Now we have this. We've asked on so many different measures, like how should election integrity be maintained? IDs, audits, and here's an example. This is from November, just after the election. Should disputes over election results be investigated fully, including the use of forensic ballot audits? Overwhelming support, 65% say yes, 17% say no. Even 63% of Democrats say yes. In fact, it's almost the same number as Republicans here, 63%, 64%. And even independents are more likely to say yes than anybody else. And only 17% say no. Should federal election laws require that all votes be counted and the final results be reported within 12 hours of polls closing on election day? People don't like California and Arizona voting for days and weeks. 63% say yes. Overwhelmingly positive support. 23% say no. Even a majority of Democrats, 56%. So listen, even in California, the elected representatives are not upholding the will of the people. Should federal election laws require the use of paper ballots? First time we asked this question nationally, 59% said yes, 23% said no. And then we have this. So this is after the election, and it shows that people were paying attention because after seeing the results and how they were counted, a lot fewer people said it was likely that the outcome of this year's presidential election was affected by cheating. It was down to 32%, only 17% very likely. And of course, Democrats this time were more likely than anybody else. And if you go to Reddit, there are now subreddits springing up of Democrats talking about how Elon Musk flipped the votes with Starlink satellites or something like that. So maybe we'll see groundswell support now for paper ballots because Democrats might think that elections are rigged. I don't know. 42% of Democrats say likely, 25% say very. And then which election had more cheating, 2020 or 2024? And 18% say 2024, 42% say 2020. Democrats are actually kind of split. That's weird. 29, 24% this year, 2024 in the previous cycle. But Republicans 63 to 13 say the 2020 election, and independents it's 41% to 9%. And that brings us up to today. Election integrity, 60% favor requiring paper ballots. Like a no-brainer. Get it done. Let's get it done. You know, people like technology, but there's just some things, right? Federal retirement records don't need to be paper. We don't need to have a salt mine full of, thousands and thousands of boxes of, like something out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But votes are important. We have dollar bills. They have like a ton of different security measures. Why can't we have that for ballots? It's a no-brainer. Do you think hand-marked paper ballots are more trustworthy than touchscreen voting? And this was just this week. 41% say more trustworthy, 14% say less trustworthy, 38% about equal. And the party signal here, hand-marked paper ballots, 52% Republicans, more trustworthy, 14% less trustworthy. And independents and Democrats are kind of close together on this. There's not as big of a signal, but it's still a signal, 36% to 12% for Democrats. Paper ballots are more trustworthy. A lot of people aren't plugged in and maybe don't connect this necessarily to election integrity. Maybe it's like, oh man, my voting might be a little bit less convenient. But would you support or impose enacting a law in your state requiring the use of paper ballots for all elections? And it's got 60% support, 38% strong support, but a really high level and not sure's. So only 26% oppose. So it's well over a 2-to-1 margin. That's like a gimme. That's like a slam dunk for lawmakers to get Republicans and Democrats to agree to this level, because Democrats, it's a majority, 51%, but Republicans at 72% and independents 55%. Now, this is one of the things that independents pull more like Democrats than Republicans. It's very rare, but it's still a majority. So like, do it. Would you vote to hand count and examine? Would you volunteer yourself to hand count and examine the election ballots in a local school gymnasium on election night? Because you hear a lot of people concern trolling. Oh, we can't do it. It's too hard. We can't, India does it. They have like 1 point whatever billion people. They can do it. Why can't we do it? Well, we don't have enough election workers. Well, here you go. 56% of U.S. likely voters say they would volunteer. Only 28% say no. And by party, Democrats are almost as likely as Republicans to say they'll do their civic duty. 54% Democrat, 62% Republican. Really strong. Lots of young people, 57% of 18 to 39-year-olds. No signal across race. Even liberals, 56%. It's a gimme. The reason the number's not higher is because you have a 16% not sure. This is a 2-to-1 margin. This is about as strong as it gets on political related things, except for like voter ID. Like that one is, if this is a slam dunk, that's like a double slam dunk. Get her done. Trump, you got Congress, got the Senate. This is a no-brainer. Just slip it in. Get it on the docket. Let's get this one done. Maybe you can get it done before the debt ceiling snafu, before the government shuts down. So I thought those were astounding. We have so much more. A lot of old videos on YouTube where we talk about this, and believe it or not, YouTube demonetized us, but they didn't kick us out. Twitter tried to. We were number 42 on the top 50 list of the government censorship apparatus's dangerous Twitter accounts for just asking questions about election integrity. Our live stream from last Wednesday, for the first time ever, president of Rasmussen Reports, Ted Carroll, came out in public, and we're going to double down on our coverage, and we're going to be doing a lot more interviews in the future about election integrity. So it's really exciting. Like I said, it was to the detriment of our own business. There's no money in honest polling. There's no money in honest polling. There's only money in dishonest polling. And, all kinds, I guess, of sweetheart political consulting gigs and USAID money, like none of which Rasmussen gets. And so we have to make do on subscriptions and advertisement revenue and what people pay us to conduct polls. And so if you're happy that we were asking these questions for the last 4 years when every other pollster was ducking and running, please subscribe. On YouTube, it's free. Click the button. Follow us on Twitter, Rasmussen_poll. And I'm at Honest Pollster. It's no longer Mark_R_Mitchell. And really love to have you following us along as we uncover a lot more about election integrity, because I think it's going to be a hot topic for the next 2 years. Do not think Trump is going to walk headlong into another election where we're uncertain about how much fraud is going on. If you've learned something, please follow us at RasmussenReports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.